Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. So today is going to be a advice for junior year of high school video. Some disclaimers. I'm going to go over like each category in this video pretty briefly, but the 5 things we're going to be talking about is social life, academics, extracurriculars, work, and studying. So those are the 5 topics I'm going to cover in this video. I'm probably going to do a part 2 because there's just so much to cover. But yeah, this video is not only for juniors going into high school, but it can be helpful for any person going into high school who might want some advice. I'm currently going into my senior year, so I've had some experience in high school as I'm about to graduate. And also I'm going to be giving this advice as a Christian woman. So with that said, if you guys have any comments, questions, or if you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So before we hop into any advice, I just want to say that all of this is my opinion, so at the end of the day, feel free to take it or not take it, agree with it or disagree with it. But I'm just going to explain to you my thought process and the advice that I think is good advice to give to you guys. So yeah, what we're going to be talking about today is the social aspect of high school. So in the social category, I have 4 things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about relationships, I'm going to talk about friends, family, and social media. So starting off with the first thing, we're going to talk about relationships. So you may or may not already be in a relationship going into your junior year of high school, but if you're not, I recommend not getting into one at all. Boy, if you don't... And I have a reason for this. So as you're gonna see as I go through this list, junior year of high school gets super busy. You're focusing on preparing for after school life. You're trying to get your grades together. You're trying to make sure and get stuff set up for life outside of high school. And junior year is the year where that stuff actually gets kind of serious. It's a lot different from your sophomore and freshman year of high school. And it takes a lot of work, mental work, and focus. And sometimes a relationship, depending on if it's a good or bad one, can distract you and hinder your ability to get the things done your junior year that you need to get done. I know most of you guys are probably not going to listen to that advice. So I do actually have advice if you decide that you are going to be open to dating or you want to date in high school junior year, and some things that you should consider and follow. So my first piece of advice about dating in junior high school is to not rush into a relationship. You have your whole life to live. If this is somebody that you are considering dating and you don't date someone to break up with them. So people always look at me crazy when I say you're dating for marriage, because that's literally the end goal. And if not marriage, it could be just spending forever with each other. Then there's no need to rush into that if you're considering dating somebody. Disclaimer, I'm not talking about sneaky links. I'm not talking about like friends with benefits. I'm not talking about, up in the air relationships. Okay. I'm talking about, a stable long-term relationship. If that's something that you want to have with someone your junior year, then you do not need to rush into that, and it's best if you do not. I have a list that I usually go by that I feel like a relationship should slowly progress into, and how it should go from friendship to relationship. So the first step is friendship. If you are considering dating somebody or that you find interesting, then go out on dates. Dating somebody or going out on dates does not necessarily mean that you are in a relationship with them. It's you are just hanging out with them and going out to places, for example, maybe like dinner, a restaurant, movies, things of that nature. A date should not be you guys are going home, after talking to each other for a few weeks and sleeping with each other, sending explicit pictures. But yeah, you guys should start off as friends. Go out on dates, keep it wholesome, keep it healthy, and see if you actually like spending time with this person. Get to know them thoroughly and decide if that's someone that you may want to continue to get to know further. At that point in time, you can consider yourselves best friends after you put that into practice for a while. Once you got to know them a bit more, you guys are comfortable spending time with each other, comfortable going out with one another, then you guys can consider yourself best friends. And the difference between best friends and friends to me is somebody who obviously is closer to me than a friend, but I'm not in a relationship with them, as in romantic relationship, but we trust each other enough to like share our flaws, share our insecurities, be open and honest with one another, and still be there to support and raise each other up. I'm going to be talking about what a good friend is in the next category, so you'll be able to see what a friend is, what a good friend is, and they should be meeting those friend requirements before you even consider on moving to the next step, which would be a relationship. After you guys have been friends for a while and then best friends, at this point in time, after communicating with your partner, you might decide that you guys do want to form a relationship. And if you guys do, there are some things that I want to point out that you should have in your relationship, things that should be happening and should not be happening. That's going to bring us to our next point in relationships. If you read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, we can see how God wants our relationships to be and how he does not want us to be. He gives us a pretty clear outline on what love is, what it looks like, and he gives us an outline of what love is not and what it does not look like. I'm going to basically put the quote up somewhere on the screen, and I'm going to go through this with you and highlight some things that should be in your relationship and things to look out for in your relationship. I would also like to mention a basic principle on why it's so important to have your own relationship with God, because as we know, as believers, God loved us first. So if we do not know God's love, how can we ever expect to love others properly if we don't have a good role model on how to love? And God is the best role model on showing us how to love one another and how to love ourselves. In 1 Corinthians 13, God tells us a few things about what love is. But the first thing he seems to highlight is that love is patient and love is kind. So in your relationship with this person, although you guys may butt heads and there may be arguments, at the end of the day, it's about what happens after the fact. Are your arguments leading to, abuse, disagreements, broken hearts? There's never seems to be a resolution. You argue quite frequently, then you can see that this relationship may not be producing the fruit in which God intended it to. The way to know that your relationship is on the right track is that, your love will be kind. And so now that raises the question is, what is kindness? And I'm not talking about a Google definition. According to the Bible, kindness is being selfless and compassionate, to love another as you love yourself. That is what it means to be kind. So if your partner is struggling with something, it's important to be able to empathize with them, understand them, and treat them as you would treat yourself, as if you were going through the same type of difficult time in that current moment. Just as in all relationships, you are bound to have disagreements. You're bound to, quarrel, but it's about, the expressing the characteristics and things that God tells us to follow with our partner that allows us to persevere through these hard times and remain patient and kind to one another. Right after God tells us what a relationship should be, he tells us things that a relationship should not be, and he gives us a lot of examples to show and highlight red flags in your relationship. Some things he tells us that a relationship is not is that it is not boastful, it is not proud, it is not self-seeking, and it does not dishonor others. Just for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go into each one in detail. However, I am open to making a part 2 or a video specifically about this topic, as it is something that is really pressing, I feel like, especially being a young Christian woman. So I'll be happy to talk and explain that further. Overall, if you want to know red flags and if your relationship is reflecting what God intended it to, then I would definitely take a look at this verse and take a look at this chapter and read it, bring it back in prayer, and see if your relationship is reflecting the love that God has given you. And if it is not, then I think that it is a good idea to go your separate ways. And maybe you don't have to completely, distance yourself from one another, but maybe being friends is something that is a better option for you guys. With that said, I am officially done talking about relationships. The next thing I'm going to be talking about in the social category is friendships, which is really similar to relationships. This first rule applies that your friendships, just like your relationships, should reflect God's love in them. You can go back to see the characteristics I expressed that God expects our relationships to be, but if your friendships are not showing those same things, then maybe you should consider finding new friends or getting friends that actually show, God's love and express his love and his kindness and his patience. In Proverbs 17:17, we can see that God says some things about friendship. He says that friends love at all times and brothers are born for adversity. So what this scripture is saying, that friends are meant to reflect and show you God's love. And like I mentioned before, we talked about what love is and what love is not. And a brother is born for adversity. So a brother doesn't just mean your blood brother or even your brother in Christ, but a brother is just somebody who is a close friend to you, that is like family, that can help you through adversity and help you through the tough challenges that you are going through in life. So when you're looking to see what people you should become friends with and what people you should not be friends with, keep this scripture in mind and we'll start to reveal to you the things and characteristics of what a friend is and what a friend is not. But just to clarify and go more in depth to this, I'm going to be talking about some red flags in a friend and some green flags in a friend, and how to make good friends, and why you should be careful picking out the friends you make your junior year of high school. So first and foremost, it's important to, you know who your friends are and who to stay away from in high school. High school is full of a lot of temptation, whether that is sex, lust, drug, perversion. It is full of a lot of bad things, and the people you hang around do have an influence on you, and they do matter, and it will begin to affect your character and your reputation as well. At this point in junior year, you may not be making a lot of new friends. You may already have a certain group of friends. So, depending on the advice I give, I recommend that you reflect on the friends you do have and be open to making new friends and changing your friend group as you have your whole life to live. And there's always an opportunity to make a new friend, and you never know. I used to think that, a friendship, or like how close I was or how important a person was determined by how long I knew them, but you can make a best friend in such a short amount of time versus somebody you knew your whole life who actually may have turned out not to be that good of a friend to you. But with that said, let me give you some qualities of what a good friend is and how they will act. So the first thing I have is that friends will be there for you in times of need. And more times than not, you do not have to express that need to your friends. They kind of just know. When you're going through a hard time and you feel like isolating yourself, your friends should be there to help you and pick you up. Obviously, we cannot expect people to read our minds, so it is important to communicate, but your friends should be there when you communicate to them that you need help, you need lifting up. They should be there to help support you and bring you back and get your spirits right. If you find yourself, always being abandoned or always being left behind after you even express the fact that you're struggling or going through a hard time to your friends, maybe it's time to find new friends. Next thing I have is that friends will be there to support you and lift you up even when you're already high. You want friends that don't envy you or are not jealous of you and your accomplishments, but they revel with you as if your accomplishments were their own. A big thing about love is to love others as you would love yourself. So your win should be their win. If they are making a nasty face or have a nasty attitude every time you complete something or you accomplish something great, then maybe it's time to get a better friend or a new group of friends. Your friend should be just as excited as you are when you achieve something big or when you have a great success, as your win should be their win and their win should be your win as well. And the last thing I have to talk about with friends is the vibe check. Trust your spirit. A lot of times our spirit can discern things and understand things that our heart and brain necessarily cannot. So, if you get bad vibes from people, or if you start getting bad vibes from friends you already have, take that into consideration on whether or not you may want to distance yourself from that person, because sometimes the spirit can tell us things about people that we may not necessarily comprehend at the moment. But trust your gut when making new friends. The last thing is, you are who you hang out with, whether you like it or not. What people perceive you as, or the things that you become and the things you are influenced by, is a product of your environment. People will have influences on you and they will influence you in ways, whether that's spiritual or physical. And if you're hanging around bad groups, you know what they say, bad company corrupts good character. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with people you inspire to be like, people who are, doing the right thing, and people who can, are always challenging you to do better and push yourself to become the best version of yourself as possible. You do not want to hang with people who are always dragging you down. You know, the whole goal is to move forward and to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. So you do not want to hang out with people who do not have that same goal, or you don't want to have people who are trying to push you behind when they move forward. Be mindful about who you make your friends are. Your friends are a very important aspect of your junior year. They will completely influence your whole high school experience. So take caution and just be vigilant when making your friends and the friends you already have going into your junior year. Okay, so with relationships and friends out of the way, the next part of the social category we're going to be talking about is family. So, what does family have to do with high school? It actually has a lot to do about how you perceive and how you feel going into high school. This is the place that you're more than likely going to have to come home to every single day after high school, after work, and spend time with these people. So it's important that you have a good relationship with them, and that if you don't, that you fix it this year, and I'm going to explain why. So, the first piece of advice I have about mending bonds with your family, or staying close and knit with your family this year, is because when you are soon about to go off to college or go off to whatever endeavors you have, whether you're moving out or you're staying close by, you're moving on to the next stage of your life where you're going to become more independent. You're going to, distance yourself a bit from your family, and start exploring the world for yourself and seeing what things are out there for yourself. And, leaving this next chapter of your life, or beginning this next chapter, is, I heard a great thing from a sermon, and it's, when you leave something on a good note, you can begin something on a good note. So moving into this next chapter in your life where you're going to be adventuring and going off into the world and kind of not leaving your family behind, but moving forward, it's important to have a good relationship with your family and leave that on a good note, so that you may begin your next chapter on the right note. For example, you may need help getting your papers, you may need help or advice from your parents and stuff. So if you leave, anything unmended, or if you leave your relationship with your parents on a bad note, then it may be difficult to start the next chapter of your life. So to keep the rest of this section short, if you have anything or any unspoken trauma or any issues that you need to be mended, I recommend mending them your junior year, as it will greatly benefit you your senior year and even after high school. So yeah, it's important to stay connected, mend the bonds with your family if you haven't already, and just stay close, because at the end of the day, you guys are family, and as you grow up, you're gonna definitely need them in your life. And yeah. Moving on to the final part of the social category, we have social media. So social media is a really big part of your high school experience, and if not, most of our lives in general. Hi, so my iPhone storage got full, so it's like later the same day. But besides the point, back to what I was saying, is I'm going to be talking about, your social media. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is your screen time. So I don't know when the last time you checked your screen time, but I keep a constant and consistent track of how much time I'm spending on my phone. And this is good advice in general, but like I mentioned earlier in this video, junior high school year gets pretty full, and you're always busy, you're always doing something, whether that's work outside of school or work inside of school. And so the little free time you do have, it's really easy to want to pacify yourself and just stick your phone in your face and just get away from the busy world for at least a few minutes. At least that's what we think. But unfortunately, like myself, a lot of us spend more time on useless apps than we realize. Like I said, junior year is your year to prep and get ready for after school life. So whether you can spend that time educating yourself on some things you might want to do after high school, or even applying to scholarships, the use and replacement of the time you spend on social media can have a big impact on how much things you can get done in your week. Something as simple as setting limits on certain apps that you spend too much time on and replacing those apps with, for example, I had a really big struggle with spending too much time on TikTok, which I think a lot of you guys can relate to. I decided I would replace that time with anything like Bible study, working out, applying to scholarships, or working on my college essay. And so far, I've made such amazing progress with just cutting out such a little amount of time, and I wasn't doing anything productive with that time anyway. When you're going to your junior year of high school, make sure that you're treating yourself, allowing yourself to get a break, but also being mindful of how much time you're spending on social media and these apps, and just set limits and set restrictions for yourself so you're not falling into a cycle where you're just wasting all this time that you have where you could be spending it somewhere else better and more productively. The next thing I'm going to talk about regarding to social media is your posting and your content on social media. So, I'm sure you heard sometime throughout middle school or high school that your digital footprint matters, and it matters now more than ever. As in your junior year, you're going to be applying to jobs, applying to colleges, researching colleges, or getting ready to actually go out into the world. And so the content and the things that you post on social media, if anyone's going to be looking at it and looking to see who you are, it's going to start pretty much now. So if you're posting content that is like defaming your character, showing sides of you and stuff that is harmful in any way, that stuff is going to start showing, and it's going to actually start affecting you when you go to apply for colleges and when you go to apply for work. So a recommendation I have that I currently follow is most of my accounts are private. So if you want to private your things, it gives you more access on who can view your content, what content can they view on your page, and how much of that content do they have control over seeing. I would definitely suggest deleting any videos you're not comfortable with your employers or college seeing it, and if not, then make your pages private so people can't have access to your personal life and see those things. But be mindful and be careful of what you post and what content you put out there, especially now. I know everybody kind of has a social platform and they have some sort of digital footprint, but as you begin to go into your junior year and progress past that, this is when your online digital footprint will begin to matter. So pay attention and be mindful of that. We're officially out of the whole social category advice for high school, and now we're going to be moving into the academics. So the four things I'm going to be talking about in the academic categories, I'm going to be talking about your teachers, your classes, your grades, and studying. So the first thing we're going to talk about is classes. Whether you want to take advanced placement classes, AP classes, or honors classes, or regular college courses, it's ultimately up to you and your previous high school experience. Best advice I would give you is if you don't really know what classes you should be taking, I would definitely consult with your guidance counselor or school counselor to figure out what classes are best for you to take. If you want more of a challenge and you are down to get some college credits out the way, then I would suggest taking AP classes. Although they're harder, you'll be able to cut some of those credits down. And if you like to be challenged academically, then that's definitely a class. Taking AP classes is definitely something that you should do. If you're not looking to get college credits necessarily out the way, but you want something that's more challenging than regular classes and that goes at a faster pace, then you should definitely do honor classes, as they hold more weight in your GPA than college courses. But if you're like me and you just want a chill, relaxed high school year, then you can most definitely take college classes. Taking AP classes, honors classes, or college classes doesn't necessarily make you a better person, smarter person, or whatever people like to say. It's honestly just a personal experience and something that you have to consider for yourself. But some general advice I would like to recommend about picking out what classes you may or may not want to take is I would suggest talking to upperclassmen who already took those classes or are in those classes that you're looking to take. For example, if you want to take an AP history class, before you jump into the class, I would suggest not only talking to your school guidance counselor, but finding upperclassmen who are in that class and who already took that class and get some advice and feedback about how that class is and if that's something that you may want to experience yourself. And a good note moving forward is you should do this with all your classes, whether they're advanced placement classes or college classes. When deciding what classes you might want to take, especially if it's a new type of material that you're learning, you definitely want to get advice from upperclassmen and people who already took that class, because they can give you the first-hand experience and honest advice of what it's like being in that class and the work that you can expect to do. Now that we're done talking about classes, I'm going to be talking about your teachers. So junior year is a really important year to be mindful of your teachers. I know some of us don't care about our 8th grade math teacher who we all secretly hated, but this year you got to make amends. And you got to build a relationship with your teacher. Junior year is an important year to build a relationship with your teacher because Further along in this year, you're going to have your teachers help with their SAT prep, writing teacher recommendations, or even writing your college essay. People have this belief that only English teachers can help you with things like SAT work or your college essay or even teacher recommendations, but this is not true. You can get a teacher recommendation from any teacher of any class. They all had to go to college, they all had to get their college degree, and they are all capable of writing you a teacher recommendation. So ultimately, whatever teacher you feel a spark with and that you build a connection with over the course of your junior year, that may be a teacher that you might want to get a teacher recommendation from later in the year. Some ways you can start building really good relationship with your teachers is staying after for help on classwork. Alright, y'all, sorry I had to do another outfit change, ran out of storage again.
Please don't play with me right now. Just, no, that's it, please.
But hopefully this is the last time that happens. But essentially, a good way to build a relationship with your teachers would to be either to participate in class, stay after school for help, and also just, talk to your teachers. Just like stuff happens over your weekend and your life and things of that nature, stuff happens outside of school in your teacher's life. So maybe ask your teacher, like, how was your day? Did you enjoy your weekend? And things of that nature to build a conversation and build a relationship. So you need to utilize their help. They're more willing to help you, and they put a better effort in helping you as well. But now I'm going to be talking about your grades in high school. So, your grades might be bad, your grades might be good, but ultimately your grades really only matter if you plan on going to college after high school. Depending on what you plan on doing, your grades may matter more or your grades may matter less. So ultimately, this is another personal thing, but if you're going to college, I recommend that you try to get your grades up at least to like a decent level. The way I was raised, I was taught that A's and B's were good grades and D's, C's, and F's were kind of not that good. Of course, the C is like an average grade, but you want to shoot to be above average. Everyone is quote unquote average. So you want to be able to stand out, especially if you're going to college, because that's what colleges are looking for. They're not looking for average students more times than not. They're looking for kids and people who stand out and go above and beyond, put an extra effort in to make themselves stand out. However, if you don't want to go to a really prestige or good college, you can also get into college with just average or decent grades as well. So that's always an option. Again, it's really what's up to you and what you decide you want to do. I'm now going to talk about some tips that I would do if you do want to go to college, but your grades are not that good. I'm going to give you a few pieces of advice that may help you raise your grades or bring your grades up your junior year. I also want to mention that, colleges don't look necessarily at your whole high school portfolio. They mostly look at your junior and senior year grades. So junior year is definitely the year to make sure you're on top of your grades and not fall behind. So some ways I recommend that you can catch up in school or raise your grade is obviously doing the classwork and the homework. These are usually two common grades in classes, and although these are smaller grades compared to quizzes and tests, these small grades add up greatly. If you miss your homework consistently or you consistently don't do your classwork, more times than not, this is going to affect your grade a lot. And most teachers have a deadline as to where you can and when you can make up the work. And so, if you haven't done your all your homework for the first semester, it's going to be really hard to catch up and bring your grade up from those assignments in your third or fourth semester. Another thing I recommend is staying after your teacher to help you with assignments. Teachers don't want to see you fail more times than not.
What did you say? Yell at me? You yell at me! Get out of the class!
But if you stay after with your teachers to help you with something as small as homework or as big as even quizzes and tests, that will drastically help you score better and therefore raise your grade. You also get to build a relationship with your teacher, which is something we talked about as well. So it's a win-win. Next piece of advice would be to study for quizzes and tests. So if you're doing your homework consistently and you're doing your classwork consistently and staying after for help, you should be all good in the classwork and homework category. But now, when it comes to the big quizzes and tests, these are the things that can drastically raise or lower our grade. So it's important to study for these things and figure out a method of studying which works for you, which I'm going to be talking about in the next section. The last thing I'm going to talk about is communicate with your teachers. Sometimes we do fall behind a lot in work in our classes for multiple reasons, and it's important when we try to fix our grades that we communicate our situation to our teacher. Maybe we're going through a hard time at home, work, anything outside of school that our teacher may not know about. more times than not, your teachers are human too, and they understand the difficulty that life can bring. And so they will help with you and work with you and help you get your grade up in their class as well. So make sure whatever situation you're going through that is affecting your classwork, that you communicate that with your teacher and you guys can set up a plan to help you get your grade and pass their class. So the last thing in the academic portion I'm going to be talking about is studying. Me personally, I suck at studying. Straight A student, never really needed to study, didn't see why I needed to study, but I'm here telling you, as somebody who hates studying and does not do it and still passes her classes, that you need to learn how to study and how studying works for you. I believe that I didn't need to study for anything because I just didn't need to. Doing the classwork and the homework was enough studying for me, so I didn't need to study. But I ended up getting into a class, history, where I actually needed to study to do well in that class. So when I got to this class, I had really no idea on how to take notes, how to study, or like even where to start because I was not good at studying because I never really made the effort to figure out what studying method works for me. Even though, my studying method and your studying method might be greatly different, I'm going to give you tips and tricks on how I figured out how I study and how I learn best, and hopefully that can help you as well. So the biggest thing that helped me with studying was Quizlet. So, you may or may not have used it, but Quizlet is basically an app that is meant to help kids study, and you can make your own flashcards. It turns all your words and terms and definitions into like games, flashcards. It generates tests, and Quizlet used to be a lot better when I was like in middle school. It was mostly free, but now they have like Quizlet Premium, so if you don't have Quizlet Premium, you only can like study using like flashcards, and I think it's only for a certain amount of time each day, which pretty much sucks. So I would definitely recommend that if you're not good at studying, I would definitely recommend getting Quizlet, but not just getting Quizlet, but getting Quizlet Premium. It's only $32 a month, and more times than not, your parents would probably be willing to pay for it as it's like an academic thing. But yeah, even if not, it's only $32 a month. It's not $32 a month, it's $32 a year, and it's super cheap, and it's honestly helped me so much, and it helped me pass my history class and all my tests with flying colors. So I would definitely recommend trying out Quizlet Premium if you need some help in starting to study. My next suggestion would be study with a friend. Studying with a friend helps so much. When I study, it's like a ongoing war. I like literally am suffering. So having a friend there to suffer with me makes me feel better about my suffering because I know I'm not suffering alone. I have a friend in a class or a course that is also with you, and they need to study as well. Maybe you can invite them to do study time with you, and you guys both can study together. That's, flashcards, whatever you guys want to study. Studying with a friend helps so much, so I would definitely recommend doing that. I'm currently studying with my friend for SATs, and we help keep each other accountable, and we help make sure that we are always pushing ourselves, and being able to study with them has helped graciously. There would be a lot of days where I would not even open up my SAT book if it was not for my friend, and vice versa. So studying with a friend helps a lot. Last thing is just have good time management. I would recommend dedicating a time in your day where you will consistently study. You want to have a certain time selected, and so your studying is not all over the place, but have a select time where you will sit down and you will commit to studying during that time. Because if you don't, a lot of times we end up not studying at all because we don't have a specific time where we study. We just study when we're free, which if that's how you have to do things and you can hold yourself accountable, then that's no problem. But I would recommend having a set time in your day where you will choose to study. And with that said, we're going to get on to the next category. Okay, so we're on to the next category now, and the next category is extracurricular activities. So as somebody who was very involved in high school, especially in my junior year, although it gets busy with academics, it's so important to join extracurricular activities for a variety of reasons. Whether you decide to do a sport, whether you decide to do a club, or you decide to do something like band or chorus, joining an extracurricular can not only help you make new friends with similar interests, but can also help build your portfolio that you can talk about when it comes to writing your college essay. It's important to be involved not only in school academically, but in school and in your community as well. Doing extracurricular activities can help you stand out from the crowd and show that you have more to you than just your grades. You know, having good grades is good and all, but it's nice to see that there's actually a person behind those grades. And so your extracurriculars are a great opportunity to show that. Not only that, a lot of times extracurriculars make your high school experience 10 times more fun, and it gives you a reason to look forward to going to school and staying after school. My junior year, I was in 2 clubs, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I was in DECA, and I started my own club, but then it merged into another club. But ultimately, it was super fun. We did a lot of school events, a lot of fundraisers, and I was always with my friends. And more times than not, since I was so involved with like my clubs, I got to skip class often. There would be school days where I didn't even attend class because I was working on my extracurricular activities. And I didn't get marked or flagged for skipping these classes because I was cool and I had a good relationship with a lot of my teachers and faculty members in the building. So I could often walk around without a pass and just leave my classes because I had such a good relationship with my teachers and I was doing good in their class, and they understood that I had responsibilities in and outside of school. And so I would definitely recommend joining an extracurricular because it's a great opportunity to build your college resume, to be able to meet new people with similar interests, and also make school more fun and enjoyable overall. Okay, so we finally made it to the last category, and we're going to be talking about work. Now that you enter your junior year of high school, you're going to realize that you have a lot more responsibility than you may have had your sophomore and freshman year. You know, this is the year where a lot of kids get a card, start going out with their friends, and ultimately just start hanging out and enjoying the world more before they actually go off by themselves. And it's obvious that you can have fun with your friends without having money, but this year is the year that you want to start making money, so when you go out and stuff, you can enjoy spending money and shopping and doing whatever you want to do with your friends, whether you guys do an escape room or you guys go shopping at the mall. Those are all things that you need money to do. And so we're going to talk about work, how to get a job, how to look for a job, how to apply to a job, and your work ethic and how to behave when you're working. So the first thing we're going to talk about is looking for a job. What job should I get? Where do I even find a job? Okay, so the first thing is you can look online to find job opportunities near you. My recommendation is you could always go on Google Maps, look for stores in your areas. I would suggest looking for stores like maybe like malls, grocery stores, ice cream parlors, anything in that nature. And usually they hire teenagers, so you will most likely qualify to be able to work at those jobs. After you find those locations, you can go on their website and you can go on their career page. And usually at the career page, they tell you and give you an application on how to apply. I also would recommend that you look at after school programs in your area because usually they need after school counselors to watch kids. So that's also another great job opportunity. I currently work there. I've had 3 jobs and that one is my favorite. I love working with kids, so I would definitely recommend that job as well. After you located a store, you went to their career page and you found their application, you will then need to transfer their application into a different software or print it out, and you would need to fill out their application. Most stores have a general application showing you the requirements, telling you the required documents that you may need, but generally you would just need to fill out your W-2 information, which is about your taxes. I would suggest getting help from your parents when filling out your application or another trusted adult, and they will ask for some personal identification like your social security number. If you have a work permit, I'll talk about that in a second, and possibly a copy of your birth certificate or your physical. Some jobs ask for less information, some jobs ask for more. Honestly, it depends on where you're deciding to work, but those are some general pieces of information and pieces of paper you will need to present to your employer. A lot of jobs will also ask for work recommendations. So these are recommendations from jobs you had previously. So if this is your first job, you won't have the option to put those down, but I would recommend that you lie about it. Yes, I don't usually recommend you lie, but when it comes to work recommendations, get your families with different last names to fill those out so it seems like you've had previous work experience, because it just helps you become more likely to get the job. And most times employers kind of brush over that category. They may ask you a little bit about it, but just have a good plan ahead of time. But you can use your family to fill out your work recommendation as long as they have different last names, and let them know that you're putting them on the paper just in case your employer calls to ask about you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what a work permit is and why you need to get it before you work. So if you're a teenager trying to get a job, you're going to need something called a work permit. And basically, this is a permit that gives you permission to work as a minor. And most jobs, if you're underage, should and will require this. But you get this work permit from your school, and basically all it is it's your physician's signature, which is your doctor, it's your parent's signature, and it's your signature. And all this says is that it allows you to work and that you're in good condition to work. And I believe once you become 18 or 17, you may still need a work permit, but you don't need your doctor's signature. You just need your mom, your dad's, or your signature. The only thing about work permit is if you do decide to switch your job while you're still a minor, you do need to get a new work permit for each job. All right, so now that you found a job that you like, I wouldn't recommend working at a job that you hate. It's going to become miserable and it's not going to make you want to go there, and it's the worst possible thing you can do to yourself. And so after you find a job that you like decently and you fill out your application and you submit your application, some employers have their email linked where you can send your application digitally, or if you printed it out, you can bring it into the store to an employee and they'll give it to their hiring manager. But after you find a job, you submit your application and you turn it in, we're going to be talking about the hours in which you should be working. So being in school, your hours are not going to be full-time hours because you have to consider things like school, extracurriculars, giving yourself enough time to rest. So my recommendation, if this is your first job and you're still in high school, that you work no more than 20 hours a week. So that's 4 days a week for 5 hours a day, which is pretty decent, pretty reasonable. You're not working killer 8-hour shifts and you're not working 40 hours a week, so you have no break or time to yourself. But 20 hours gives you a nice, decent paycheck, and it gives you time to be able to do things after school and also have days of rest as well. So some employers may require you to work certain days and some may require you to even work certain hours. But your job as an employee now is to advocate for yourself and express to your manager that you are a high school student. A lot of times, managers have to hire not just high school students, but adults as well. And you as a high school student don't have the same responsibilities and don't have the same amount of free time that you may have as an adult. So you need to communicate to your manager that you still are a student. Let them know the clubs and activities you're in, why you're busy on certain days, and let them know the days that they most certainly cannot schedule. Some managers will try to schedule on days that you have expressed you're not free or that you are not free, and be patient with them and continuously express that you are a student in high school and that you need certain days off for whatever reason and that you can only work the allotted amount of days. Also, make sure that they know that you are in high school. So you may get sick or you may have to skip school for a doctor's visit. On those days, just make sure you build a good relationship with your manager so that they are not mad or upset with you when you call out, and also make sure you try to put notice in ahead of time if you do decide to call out. Now that you landed your job, you have your hours, and you're starting to work, I'm going to be talking about the work ethic you should have while working, because working in a real job is a lot different than you may think. Depending on where you work, it will call for certain types of behaviors, but more than likely, being a teen, you're going to work some type of customer service job or with kids. Those are two separate things, but I'm just going to be talking about customer service because that's mostly the type of jobs my friends had and that I've had in the past. Okay, so working in customer service, you have to stay respectful. Even if you get a Karen.
We'll see.
Yeah?
We'll see, okay? Yeah.
Okay, yes, we will see.
We'll see.
Okay, good.
If you find yourself getting out of control or getting filled up, just walk away and get your manager to handle the situation. You are human, and sometimes the people on the other end, whatever customer you're serving, forgets that, and you have to be the bigger person and just step away from them situations. I know we all like to say, I wouldn't let her talk to me like that. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. I wouldn't just sit there and let that happen. But being an employee, you much rather want to keep the job that you work so hard to get than just let somebody who's in and out, who you're never probably going to see again after that day, get their way. So ultimately, just be respectful, be the bigger person. Always get to work either on time or early. I did a horrible job at this at one point in time, and it actually ended up going against your marker. Your employers will keep track about what time you come into work, and if you keep coming in late consistently, you are at risk for losing your job. So make sure you're either getting to work early or on time, because not only does it keep you away from being at risk, but it also shows that you are punctual and that you actually care and are putting into effort to get there on time and show up and do your job. Thing I would recommend is always going above and beyond in your work. You know, going the extra mile. People love to have light conversations, especially in customer service while you're bagging. So make sure that you're always having a welcoming energy. You always greet whatever customer comes up to you, and you tell them to have a nice day when they go away. Also make sure that you're giving eye contact and that you're just being very personable and you have good people skills. Not everybody may not have good people person skills, so if you may want to look up some YouTube videos or look up some tips or practice even with some friends on how to help and how to be a better employee. Even though you may not be working this job for the rest of your life, or you may care less about the people around you, it's important to have a good work ethic because it shows the type of person that you are inside. You know, whether you want to go off and own your own company or whether you just want to like not even be at the job you're working at, period, it's important to show that you're willing to put the work in even when you don't want to. And it honestly shows a perseverance of character, and it also grants you opportunities, whether that's getting a raise or getting a different position, which is higher up. You also get to build a better relationship with the people at your work and your managers, and that always comes in handy whenever you need something like sick days or you ever need people to cover your shift. It's really important to build a good relationship in your work and in your work environment. Work is already hard enough, but making friends with your employee and getting a good relationship with your manager and keeping a good work ethic will make it a whole lot easier. With that said, I know this was a long video, but we are finally done. Hopefully, this advice gave you a pretty good aspect on a lot of different categories that you might want to consider when going into high school, especially in your junior year. And if you have any questions about anything I mentioned in the video, just make sure you leave them down in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you guys think and questions you still may have, and I'd be happy to answer them. So with that said, if you found this video helpful, please make sure you like and hit the thumbs up button and also subscribe. And with that said, I hope you guys all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.